We have a quorum present, 4 board members present and 1 on the phone, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I don't see any open forum. We will move on to 5, approve the agenda. Changes to the agenda. There are no changes that I'm aware of. So I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Kroll, second by Turner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Conflict of interest. I don't know that there's any new conflict of interest to be aware of. And we'll move on to approve the consent agenda. Approve the October minutes. Approve monthly claims. Approve contracts, which is James Bamer and Kyler Holzbauer assisting wrestling, Dusty Boza head girls wrestling, and Sean Jolly junior high boys basketball. And accept resignation, the resignation of Ashlyn Anderson as 7 through 12 instrumental and 6 through 12 vocal. Are there any questions on any of that? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Nebel, seconded by Roth. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Information discussion reports. We will start with the high school principal report.
Good evening, everybody. Just kind of start with, there's kind of 3 different aspects I was going to talk about tonight. First one, the high school, middle school side. Just going to talk about the character development topics. In the last month or so, been really kind of 4 strands I've been kind of working down. Would be one is school pride, just trying to get them to understand how to show up for each other. Part of that is the idea of being a strong student section, that school spirit aspect through homecoming and all the different games and stuff like that, showing up for each other. And the second part is how we treat the facilities, right? The idea of we'll clean up after ourselves. We have nice things, let's keep them nice. And so I've been doing a lot of work with that. Servant leadership has been one we've really been working on the last couple of weeks. Even today, our little TED Talk we did during the advisory period was about everyday leadership. Just trying to give them little doses. We do a general assembly about once every 2 weeks, when you say, Mrs. Bartel, where I'll really bring everybody together and I'll kind of start down a path, and then we try and just follow it up with the TED Talks, the everyday interaction, stuff like that. Another one is social interaction, just trying to get them to understand, why do we not give you your phones very often, right? What are we trying to encourage? What is really important? The idea of being really good in our social interactions, to be intentional about them, to actually want to do it and then get better at it. Watch the TED Talk about being contagious with our facial expressions, the tone of our voice, our body language. Be contagious in a positive way. So been kind of fun. Like the thing I like is you kind of set the table, and then it leads to daily interactions, conversations. Hey, what'd you think of that video? What'd you get out of it? What has that meant for you? And I really try to be, like I said, it's called character development. We're trying to develop, trying to get them to understand, expose them to new things, and go. The last piece is that we're going to kind of start transitioning towards is the idea of a growth mindset, not being a fixed mindset that this is how it is, this is what I am, and this is how I'm always going to be, and more of that growth mindset, which is exactly what the educational experience is all about. So really trying to hit those. I think that's going to be kind of our heart until we get to Christmas time. We're just going to keep on hammering that stuff. In the second semester, we're going to kind of transition into the Bring Your A game, the 8 A's that we talked about earlier in the year, to kind of go through there. Clubs and programs have been really busy. Oral and Terp's pretty new. It's only the 2nd year that we've had Oral and Terp. Mrs. Andre's done a really good job of building that program. I think we had something like 16 or 17 kids be a part of it. We had, Class B, we have a really big district, and then in the regions, and then state. And so last week was districts. We had 6 kids in 3 different events through to regions next Monday. Hopefully we'll get some kids to state. One of them is called the Readers Theater. That's got a lot of kids involved. It's really good. And then a couple of there was a duet and a solo that all made it. So good job to Mrs. Andre and the Oral and Terp. Ed Rising, we just went to DWU last Wednesday. You know, you go to all these different universities, they have Ed Rising days where they bring all the prospective teachers that are part of the Ed Rising programs. My favorite one is DWU. Mrs. Kufka says it's the best one too. It's right in our backyard. I get to go up and kind of present, which I have a blast that day. And it's really fun too, just because you get to kind of see what those are all about. So I'm really excited. I think you should be too. Like, we've got a really good set of candidates of possible future teachers that have bought into the Ed Rising at all levels and all different aspects of secondary through elementary education. So good job, Mrs. Kupka, and awesome job to those kids. FFA's been busy this month. The national convention was in Indianapolis. They went there, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and it sounds like they had a great time. They just went to Brookings last week. You got the LDE competitions going on. Kind of a, as Miss Ackerman talked about, it's the first dip in the water for a lot of these freshmen that are going, so that was a pretty successful event. Host has been extremely busy. We had our blood drive last Tuesday. Awesome that Host always puts that on. They lead it. They go out and get all the people signed up for donations, and so thank you for them for that. They had a leadership conference and a scrubs camp this month as well, so Host has really been busy. Host is one of those things that didn't exist when we were in high school, but boy, it's huge and it's really neat. There's a lot of good things that they provide. FCCLA has had a leadership conference. They were also a really big part of a Dig Pink Night, which I thought was a very big success. So all of our clubs and programs have really been working hard to immerse the kids in meaningful activities, and we've been both abroad and home really busy. Academically, we're in the 4th week of the 2nd quarter. This Wednesday will be our first in eligibility list for the new quarter, so just trying to get kiddos aware of that and ready to roll. Kind of crazy to think, but November's a weird month. We have 20 days left in November, and we have 9 school days left in November. So on our end, we got block scheduling. That means each block you're only going to see those kids 4 or 5 more times the rest of the month. So you have to be really intentional. You have to be really good at interleaving, accessing the prior knowledge from before, because you might have a 2-day gap, you might have a 5-day gap, you might have a 7-day gap in between. So you got to be really good with trying to get as much out of that 80-minute block as you can, or 85-minute block. And then after that 9 days out of the next 20, then we have school 15 to the next 19. So it just goes from this like really interspersed to just boom, we're going to hit it hard right up until Christmas. So sometimes that can be a challenge just because it's really hard to keep the kids motivated. They get into these habits at home and sleep it in, and then you got to shock their system for 4 days, and you lose them for 3, and you got to start all over. So always a challenging type of year, when you say, Mrs. Bartel. But we're battling. We're trying to, by being aware of it, and also too, you add in a time change and it gets dark sooner, and there's just a lot of things. And so that's another thing we've talked about in our character development is how to attack what we call the winter blues. So we're trying to be intentional about making them aware, but it's always a challenge. Online courses, just gonna, the only thing I think that's ever challenged, our dual credit kids have done amazing. We've had very few warnings, that we're not doing the job. Right? We talked about this summer. You guys helped me put into the handbook about, the possibility of ineligibility if you get behind. The only ones I'm ever having to talk to are getting behind. That freshman year is so tough. Freshmen want to take Spanish. You want to take Spanish 1, you want to take Spanish 2. You want to get them done in the freshman sophomore year before dual credit becomes a thing, right? It's a lot of those kiddos that are wanting to do that. But that freshman year, it's that first glimpse into not having a teacher right in front of you, pushing you, saying it's due. So we have some freshmen that are still kind of struggling with the Spanish part, and I always wonder about, that's something we want to continue to do, is let freshmen take Spanish, but I always feel like if we don't, how many are going to get through those 2 years of foreign language? Because once dual credit becomes an option, they're going to want to do that instead. But I think other than that, it's a good experience. Every single person that goes to college and beyond is going to have to know how to be an independent learner in the online setting. And so it's a good thing for them to experience, but you always have those growing pains. So that, outside of that, I've really enjoyed it and appreciated it. So that's kind of what I have, those 3 aspects. Do you guys have any questions for me? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. Just kind of build off of what Mr. Knipling was talking about. For us in the elementary, we do our monthly mindsets, and so we just wrapped up Passion First was our last mindset here in October, and we just started We Are Connected this month. And so with that, last couple of years I've been trying to bring people in to talk to the group, and so we had Wes Jeanette come in and talk about just what it means to be a Parkston Trojan and how you can set your goals for whatever you want, and that's doable, and knowing that you have a strong community around you to support you in pursuing those goals. So it's pretty fun to have him come in and talk about, yes, he was a really good high school athlete, yes, he had a lot of success in college, but now he's truly following his dream of becoming a doctor. And so whatever goals you have for yourself, if you want to work hard, you can attain those. So that's kind of the way we kicked off November, which was pretty fun. Classroom stuff, like Mr. Knipling said, we're kind of into that second quarter now. So we are working away there. Really starting to get a good feel for the new curriculum and stuff that we've implemented. So it's been good to get some feedback from teachers on how that's going. We implemented new ELA curriculum. Along with that, a new phonics curriculum, and then we have our social studies stuff that was mandated from the state. So 3 new things that teachers have been working on, which gets to be quite a bit. But I think the teachers are starting to get a feel for it now through a lot of hard work on their end, and hearing really positive things about, and just seeing it with my own kids too, but the way that the phonics program is forcing them to really look at and study words and how to develop those sounds, the different things with that has been really positive. And now with our ELA curriculum, been really encouraged by how kids are able to really read a story, no matter what the grade level, and sit down and talk about it in small groups, which might seem like, that's not that big a deal. It's a pretty big deal for little first graders and second graders to be able to do that and start learning those skills that are going to pay off when they get to the other end in middle school and high school. So good things happening there. Other than that, we just are kind of, like Mr. Knipling said, it's a kind of a crazy month. We're dealing with in the elementary, a lot of the weather changes which affect kids. Halloween's a big thing, the time change is a big thing. Throws all of our structure out of place with those little ones. So we're just trying to keep them and keep structure around them to keep the good things happening that are going on. But we celebrated this year. We celebrated the 50th day of school, and so a fun thing we did with that was dressed in 50s attire. So that was kind of fun, and went back and talked about some of the things that were going on in the 50s. And our 5th graders and kindergartners buddied up and spent some time going through some different activities there. So those are a couple little things happening on our end. On the activities side, wrapping up most of our fall activities. Football finished up on Friday night with a loss to Elkton in the semifinals, 14-8. We have All-State Choir just took place. We had state cross country. Talked about golf in the previous meeting. So most of our competitive cheer had a good showing at state as well. So most of those activities are wrapping up. We have volleyball still going strong. They are competing in the SODEX 16 tomorrow night in Huron for a chance to go to state in Rapid City. So that's kind of the end of the fall things, and the winter sports are gearing up, getting ready to go. Wrestling will start next week, girls basketball over Thanksgiving, and so just kind of that continuous cycle is ever going. So those are the things with that. I did ask Mr. M to give you guys the school song. I don't really have much conversation to throw at you, but I did want to give you that to maybe take out into the community. You can see on the one side is the current edition that has, I highlight or I bolded and italicized some of the things that we're looking at. Like we talked about at the previous meeting, for football there's a specific phrase, throw the ball into the end zone. For basketball there's a specific one, shoot the ball into the basket. What the other ones are, for wrestling, track, volleyball, you name it, cross country, all our other activities, I don't know. And so that's where the conversation started. Also, kind of started where we're trying to get the elementary kids to start learning the lyrics to the song, and how do you do that if it's ever changing. It's a little tougher for those little guys. So that's kind of what started the conversation. You can see it also says fight fellas, fight, fight, fight. I think that we changed that to fight ladies, fight, 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 but we could just say fight Trojans, and so gave you an example on the back. Miss Anderson helped me come up with that. I asked her for a couple options, and that's the one that kind of fit best there. I've gotten a little bit of feedback from some other community members. Other people that I've talked to have said, not a big deal, let's change it to make it what's best for all activities and all kids, but I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. So give that to you guys. Let you guys kind of take that around the community, see what you guys get for feedback, and we can revisit that at the next meeting. So just wanted to share that as well. That's all I got. Any questions for me?
Okay. Thank you. All right, Mr. McKinnon.
I don't have much there, just know that included in my notes, we did get paid on 5/30, so that was good. From our state aid, the roofing and gutter issue, I did get a hold of Austin Wolf to come take a look on there, but he didn't get a chance to get up there. Talked to him on Friday, and because of the snow and the weather and stuff, he wasn't real crazy about climbing on top of the roof, which probably didn't blame him. So I called him, talked to him today too. He said, get up there. And when he called me later on, he said, there's still some snow around there. He said, I'm not going to go sliding up there. But he said, I'll go up there and take a look. And just talking with him about, some of the flashing and stuff I think that goes around. Because I think I put in my notes that every HVAC, when Andrew and I went up there, every one of those roof penetrations had water sitting on the roof, in the attic. I mean, so I think it was every one of them. If I remember.
All the one.
Yeah. So it's like,
Is it leaking or is it condensation coming
It's
from the?
straight up leaking.
yeah, it's coming somewhere. That question is where. So that's where we need to, get somebody on that roof.
It was literally running down the sides of the
Yeah.
box, because it goes down and then it goes over where the fan's at, and then it goes through the old roof. And it's pooling underneath there, and it's literally dripping down the side of it.
Yeah.
You can see it coming around the flashing, and then where the valleys are, there's spray foam put in where the ribs are at, and it's just back feeding up underneath that and then falling onto the old roof. And where the worst spots were dripping down in the classrooms, it was matched perfectly where the puddles were up top. So I just don't think that valley is quite wide enough to keep the water in it, and I don't think spray foam is probably the best sealant.
Yeah. So we reached out to Austin, knowing that, because I had reached out after we went up there. I talked to ARS again, and of course they're supposed to be getting us a quote on gutter aspect of things. So again, one of those. What were we talking about earlier about finding the doors? The glass. I mean, find a company that will be responsive. Communicate. We'll be out this time, doing that. So. Austin said he'd run up there and take a look, and he said if I can't fix it, it's not within my realm. He said I'll tell you. He said, but if there's a process there that we can help, he said we'll take a look at it. So, but he didn't get up there, so I'm still waiting. So that's where we're at with that. Any feedback on the Associated School Boards Delegate Assembly, and that's coming up the following next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend. I know Andrew and John, you kind of both looked at that, and I don't know, we never really decided. I didn't put anybody's name on the land, or not the land, but on the Delegate Assembly. Sure. So I don't know if you guys wanted to flip a coin, or I just need a name. And whether you end up going or not, I mean, it is what it is, because there's been years we've sent people, and there's years that we haven't. So we won't be the only district if we don't represent. I'm just
No,
telling you.
Andrew wants to go, I'll be fine.
Where is it at again?
It's in Pier. Put your name down for now. Is that
That's the 22nd. That week.
that Friday? Yeah.
Just
Yep.
a day thing.
Yeah, I think so.
I can put
Later.
my name down for now.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. I appreciate that. And then the other part too, at the bottom of there, I included the land member. That stands for Legislative Action Network, and typically we always put a name on there. Now they're encouraging that anytime that there's legislative action that needs on there, John has always been on there, and he kind of pushed things out in an email format, say, hey, heads up type of deal. Well, I can just as easily include everybody's email address on there, so there's no one particular person that's a Legislative Action Network designee. We'll all get it. I'm even included in there, for sure. But if that's okay, I wanted to ask for permission, because some of you maybe don't like get your email inbox blown up, and it's not like it's 50 a day or anything like that. But when things are happening out there and they want to hear from school boards, it puts you on alert and whether you can contact your district reps or your legislative district reps. I mean, that's all they're asking for. So if there's no huge aversion to that, so.
One less step, John doesn't have to take time for it. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I'm fine with it.
And you'll all get it, okay. And that feedback too. I'm gonna skip D real quick here and go to school board election. Ironic that I just got something from Secretary of State today, our Secretary of State, and what I put in there in those timeframes, they are legit. You know, so, Jason and I talked about just kind of being, otherwise we'd lose sight of it, honestly, because that's not what we do in school districts. We've never had this time frame in order to publicize the school board opening, you know, in December. It never happened before, so we would forget it, I'm almost positive, and then petition-wise, it's that same, you know, February 3rd, 24th is when that happens, so I just wanted more of an awareness on your guys' part, and I believe the only seat that's coming up is yours.
Oh, I got to think about that. I'm pretty sure there's somebody else with me. I thought there was two of us.
I called, we sat down, we called John, and he's got one more year left on, he was appointed, he finished that, and then he took out a petition, ran unopposed.
Okay.
You just did your thing, and then Andrew, you just did yours, you know, so
Okay.
I think, yeah,
Maybe I'm
I
wrong.
mean, there's a form, and I don't know if
Okay.
we found it yet, or if Jason's found it, Craig could direct us to it, but it's a simple time frame and who's who and what's what. But
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
that's,
pretty sure it's just yours.
okay.
Okay, but we'll look to make sure, so. And then the consider of a Christmas gift, I just wanted some, you know, if anybody had any opposition there, that, you know, we've done a couple things in the past where I always thought that, and it worked out fine, that maybe it's time for a change, that food is the best way to people's heart, and we've done that for the last couple of years, but I think where we're at right now, I think a recommendation I would give you is we'll do some chamber bucks and then people can use it how they want to see fit. So if that's okay, maybe go that route with that. So, okay. I do want to visit real briefly here, take probably 10, 15 minutes here. I put our student data in there. Usually I did this in October, but since their last 2 years, they've come later and later with our student data and not being able to release the public report card. You know, it's like embargoed is the word that they use. So it's like secret, right? So don't ask me why, but I decided to move to November for this concept, but I wanted to show some things to you about our student data. And in your packet, you had these 3 or 4 documents that I included in there. So what I would like to draw your attention to in the categories, you can see way to the left is each one of our schools, all the way back to 18, 19. And you can see a running record of our ELA, math, and science proficiency in advanced. And proficiency in advanced means they had a scale score that would classify them as a 3 or 4, which is proficient and advanced. Way to the right in column H is our school performance index. So each school has their own performance index, and there is a number of factors that all obtain points, performance being one of them, progress being another, and then there's other factors like climate, there's attendance. At the high school, there's college and career readiness, there's ACT scores that also provide that. So each school has their own particular school performance index, and that is what you get, basically what gets reported from each institution. Question.
Is that a high of 100 or where is that?
Yes, it's 100, the total score, yeah, you know, and how it's all divided up.
And that's not-
Performance is the
that's
greater part of the
That's
100.
not ranking at all, that's just
Yes, that's your percentage of points that not even percentage, it's your actual raw points that you've obtained through the criteria that they're adding together.
but it's not ranking us on other
Uh-uh.
schools.
No. It's very easy to do. You can go and find everybody else's SPI. You want to take all the high schools and find out what their SPIs are. You'll find out where you fall if you wanted to do that. So, and locally, I've done that. We're in the top quarter. If we're talking in a 60-mile radius of this institution, we're in the top. We're not at the bottom. So, but things, what we look at when we talk about data last, January, I think if I remember, was it December? We walked through that data retreat and I sat down with you guys and we walked through many components of that. What we look for are the trends. You can hypothesize. You can see things from a numbers wise, like, is there consistently growth? Or you have a high number and you go down to a low number, and next year you got a slight growth, or you halfway up to back to where you were the year before. You can look at those trends, and then we discuss as staff, as school improvement teams, as to what's behind that. What are we missing here? Where are we dropping the ball with relative to content standards? What didn't get taught? Things of that nature as to why perhaps maybe we didn't do so well. So you can, all the schools are on the left side, and I just say this because you have these documents, and I'll share these with anybody who wants them. It's like you said, public knowledge. When you get down here, you look at the school performance index, these numbers that you see, and it's competitive. Back to your question, Matt, is rank in order from all schools' perspective. Here's the high school, and this means higher ed percent that are ready. That's the percent that are ready for higher ed to go on to the next level. College and career readiness, and then your ACT. So that's our ACT, Parkston High School ACT scores there, when you follow the year down. So we're hovering right in there, and we are above the state average ACT wise, so. And some would say, well, you're going backwards, 22, 21, 20. Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, and we can probably hypothesize as to some of the reasons as perhaps why that is the case. But part of it is I wanted to stop there is, hang on, because next year, every kid, junior, in the state of South Dakota is going to be taking this ACT. So you're going to see that take a dip. Promise you. Would you agree, Mr. Knipling?
Yep.
Yeah, Mrs. Bartelt. Yeah, we're gonna take a hit. I won't say a big one, but don't be shocked if you see 19 in there next year. And then the state as a whole, watch that thing plummet. And I say plummet at the state level, because the upper echelon of even our private schools, where they just test the best and the brightest, now they got to test all of them. Which I know they still have a best and brightest concept in private school kind of deal, but even the public schools, let's talk about the one 20 miles to the north of us, their bottom third is not taking this test. So we'll see what that does in that respect. So.
Also, too, you got to go into, like we talked about, the fact that everybody has to take the writing. That's going to be the part that is going to be the biggest ouch for everyone. That writing test is difficult.
Because right now, our kids who take, they have the option. So if your kid was right at that level to take the ACT.
Maybe 1 or 2% take the actual writing test. So.
My kids.
There's no advantage.
My kids never took it. I'm not doing the writing. Well, you don't have to.
There's no advantage to taking it.
It wasn't, So, as much as maybe even Miss Bartelt probably promoted it and beat them up on it, but they're still like, yeah, no, that's not for me. The very bottom here is progress, and that's the other part where we have a whole other spreadsheet that I didn't include in here because it's got a lot of student data. For me to carve it out and to eliminate names on there, it probably wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense based on progress. And what we would talk about there is from year to year to year, any one particular kid, the growth metric, we're talking about growth mindset, we're talking about actual growth. And it's not nothing to do, it's part of what to do with levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we can still gain points towards our SPI. If I'm a 1, I struggle, but my scale score at 3rd grade was this, next year my scale score was this, I'm still a 1, but I can show a parent we're moving forward. They're projecting upward in that. So, and when we put those numbers together, we can show growth. Overall, our students are getting better becoming better versed, they're growing academically. So, and that's what that is. You can see that bottom number to the left. It says district, and that's true. That's a district. That's all of our grade levels that are in the state assessment. 58% of the kids show growth in our math assessment. 60% showed growth in our English language art assessment. And then the ELL, that's our English language learners that are on track, okay? And that is volatile, and part of that is that includes our 2 colony schools because they're classified as English language learners because they're German at home. So it's not a metric that we take a whole lot of concern about. I mean, yes, it is a concern, but we're not putting a lot of eggs in our basket with that respect. So, and only because we have I believe a 5-year span of time in order to get them what they score on. It's called the WIDA, is the assessment, to get them to a point where they can graduate out of that assessment. So, this sheet, this is the part where I kind of hang on to things. I look at this a lot, and this is by class. So this is this year's seniors. So if you look at them from 3rd grade all the way through their 11th grade, and you look at their levels 3 and 4, and that's the middle column G where it says you add those 2 up, their percentages, and levels 1 and 2, column J, again, percentages. You can see inconsistencies. They start as 3rd graders, 60% of them were proficient in advance. The next year, 50% of them. The number to test, 16 to 17. Following year's 5th graders, there was 19 of them, and then they dropped to 48%. COVID hit, okay? And then 2021, we did assess, but it didn't count, but I still had scores. You could still get scores. Look at the dip that it took after COVID. And you can see that in every one of those classes when you go down and look after the year after COVID and how it took a beating, okay? And then you got to skip the 9th grade and 10th grade because there is no assessment for that. They 8th grade and they don't test again until juniors. Now, back to Mr. Knipling's beginning of the year presentation, we are now testing all of our freshmen, testing all of our sophomores, leading up to with ACT products in preparation for the juniors taking the ACT. So when we test our freshmen last year, we can tell our freshmen, listen, this is what your projected ACT score is. You've maybe heard say this before, maybe you've heard me say this, but I've talked with Mr. Knipling at length about this, and I started this in my old district. We did this, and you have kids that have this mindset that I'm going to go big. I'm this professional. I'm going to be this doctor, this lawyer, this engineer of everything. And you take that 9th grade and 10th grade assessment, and it's showing them a projected composite score in math of 15. That's a disconnect. You're not going to be a doctor. You're not going to be a lawyer. You're not going to be an engineer because you don't have that skill level. How about this? If you want to do that, you're not going to do it with a 15. So you really got to go hog wild and invest in those particular courses that we have to offer to improve your skills and your understanding and your knowledge of that. So, yeah, I mean, it's if you have a chance to go back and look at this stuff, perhaps now it makes a little bit more sense as to where any one particular grade of kids and follow them through their journey in Parkston. And that's where we hypothesize as SIT teams too, like, what happened here? It is not uncommon for 3rd grade to score really, really high. 4th grade takes a beating across the state. I can show you the state numbers that it takes a beating. And part of that is the assessment from 3rd grade to 4th grade. It becomes, it's I don't know, increasingly more difficult for these kids. And every school district in the state, typically 3rd grade to 4th grade takes a hit. And then you start building your way back up from there. So, but that's an interesting tab or sheet that I put in your, to look at. And you can look at any one particular group, and follow them, what happened, through that process. So, and then this sheet, this is in any one given year. I can go back all of, I think 15, 16. I just keep adding to this. And you can look at kind of the same thing, levels of 3 and 4. And this is the class in that year. So this is 3rd grade in 15, 16. 4th grade in 15, 16. And you can follow them by color. So 3rd grade, if you look down here the next year, they're still red. 4th grade, 5th grade, they're still blue. It's still the same group of kids. And the other identifier there is the number of kids that are tested. It's relatively consistent as far as the number of kids. COVID hit. 2021, even though it was not publicized, we still got scores from that experience. And that traditionally, you can see that the number was not good, when you add those numbers up. So this year's, I just wanted to point something out to you. Here's this senior class, last year's juniors, now seniors. 17 of them go back to their 8th grade year. It's purple. There they are, it's purple. 18 of them tested then. You had 50 and 50. 50 proficient advanced, 50 that were basic and below basic. Look at the number here. That's ones. Okay, and now follow them down here. It got cut in half. And we jumped up to 65% proficient and advanced. So that would give you some indication that, and you're like, well, it's not the same group of kids. Well, it's pretty close. So what changed between 8th grade and, their junior year? That's where, again, we sit down as SIT teams and hypothesize, did we do anything right? Did we do anything well? Scores would indicate to some degree that we did do that, okay? So the science is on there. I just blew that up a little bit. And science, I never had data until the only ones I can get is going back to this year. So I started building that. And if you're wondering why all the blank spots, we only test science in grades 5, 8, and 11. That's it for accountability. So why? I can't give you a legitimate answer as to why the state made that decision. So I just, that's our data where we sit right now. Our report card, taking a look, and you can go to the South Dakota if you want to look at it in a different format. Our website, if people are watching here, let's see if this will come up for me. Menu, district report card. This is what it looks like. Type in Parkston. They can go to district and search. And then these are all the tabs that we have scores for. And that's how you end up in any one of those areas getting a school performance index. So that's what it looks like for people. So our report card is posted, as well as everybody else's, so is the state's as a whole. Okay. Questions on that? Clear as mud, right? For sure.
Mr. McKnight,
Yes,
you
sir.
mentioned about some students testing maybe poor in certain areas. So, and you mentioned about maybe their career, the one goes in certain areas, and that's not, they're not testing well in those certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
So is through the guidance counselor or other teachers, are we talking to these kids about those issues
Mr.
and
Knipling?
still be constructive?
You know, I think that's, it's a very hard topic, right? Like, okay, so how do you,
Yep.
what's a good way of saying, hey, I don't know if you're gonna make the cut, right?
Right.
So it's the, trying to help them understand and be realistic, right? I think that a lot of those conversations kind of happen as they, you know, you get to that junior year, we're in employability right now, right? We're starting to talk about careers, we're starting talking about, you know, the plan beyond high school. And we're starting to do our internships and go out in the real world. And so you marry the work they're doing in this employability class with the, you know, for these character development talks, sometimes we do some that are seniors only, juniors only, freshmen, sophomore. So you start to bring up that idea of self-reflection. Am I ever gonna tell a kid, your score is not gonna make it, man, you just ain't gonna do it? I just don't think I have it in me to do that, even if maybe it would help them. It's really hard to be that one that's a potential killer, right? But I think it's easy for them to understand if this is the scores you're getting, you probably aren't going to make the mark. So you have a decision to make. You either need to work harder and truly believe it's something you want, or believe there's a different dream that maybe matches your talents better, right? You know, I was just watched a video the other day where they talked about the majority of kids, their dreams don't match their gifts, right? And so trying to get the two to marry together, I think that's the challenge we have to do. But is there a time where I'm sitting down with them and saying, here's what your scores mean? Not yet. Maybe that's something we gotta start doing. Me and Mr. have talked about
We've
that.
talked about how to go about doing that. We're kind of creating at this level with our advisory time now, where he presented earlier on, and taking some of that time because the staff all have certain kids sitting in front of them during those advisory times to take a look at 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, you know, and start building those relationships, fostering those conversations like you're suggesting, and pointing out perhaps the disconnect that where they want to be, where they think they're going to be, you know, and then acceptance into the post-secondary level based on their performance, you know, that it doesn't mean you can't, but this is going to be really extremely difficult for you because you got to do better than a projected 15 in math or science or whatever it is. So you have those conversations with the kids, and it reshapes the mindset a little bit for those kids. And it's not to quash their dreams, you know, but it's a perfect scenario where ability doesn't match or their gift doesn't match what they want, you know, or what they think they want to, you know, go chase, because there's a level of cognitive ability and ability to be able to, you know, pursue something like that. So those are the kind of conversations that I think the next step we talked about being intentional about with our staff, having those conversations with kids, looking at their 9th grade ACT score, their 10th grade ACT score, and even at the end of their junior year, you know, how did this turn out for us and where are you headed and where are you going? Because it's it's building a personal learning plan based on what their strengths are, but also what perhaps their deficiencies are relative to, I really want to be this. Oh, well, okay, then this is how you got to get here. These are the classes you're going to have to take here in order to put you on that path. Yeah, but I really don't like math. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what it's going to take. So we need to start having those conversations with those kids. So it's a good question. Can I sit here and tell you we're doing that 100% with every kid? No. But we've talked about it, and that's on the agenda. So.
And at some point, whether they take it seriously or not, I know there's career aptitude type tests that they've taken, and not that,
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get out of it, what you put into it, which,
Absolutely.
you know, some may put less into it, but still, it may
Yep.
spark an idea or something, and, you know, at least give them a little bit of a different direction, or
We still
idea.
give the ASVAB to juniors as well, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, so that gives them feedback. And that's much more inclusive of a lot of, I would say, more hands-on mechanical, you know, things of that nature. And then we are still giving the NCRC too, which is an assessment that used to go into that data points that I showed you up there, that the state threw the NCRC away only to invest in the ACT for juniors. But we're still going to give that, because the data that we can glean out of there, we can still give kids the opportunity to go employ anywhere and say, listen, I'm NCRC accredited. I have a platinum level, a gold level, a silver level, a bronze level, and that's workforce employability skills. It gives them something to say, I know a little something. I mean, I can come work for you. Here's my level of employability, and through the NCRC. So we are still going to stick with that, even though it's no longer included in our school performance index as a metric of college and career readiness. So we just felt it was important enough to give those kids that feedback and that certificate, so.
The pre-ACT, which is the freshman and what the freshman and sophomore take leading up to the ACT, it's also got a career interest / aptitude questionnaire part to it. So when they get the results back, you know, it says, here's what your score is this year, here's how it sizes up, and here's what we think that will mean for the ACT, which is different. Like you getting you might get a 14 on the English in the 9th grade pre-ACT, but they're telling you that 14 might mean a 20 as a junior. So it's not like apples to apples, and I've had to kind of show that. But there's also a spot at the bottom where they show, this is what you showed interest in, you know, in terms of, you talked about the career aptitude part, what you might, you know, it kind of gives them some, maybe this is something that interests you and doesn't line up. So they help a little bit too. And we sent one of those home with each kid, you know, so each student goes home with one of those, and then we get a copy too. So we can always pull it out. You know, some of these kids have started to talk. I've actually pulled their scores off the shelf a couple of times to show, this is what you got, this is what it meant, this is where you're headed. And a lot of our conversations this year, since last year was truly all of their first experience with it, it's about growing. It's about, okay, yeah, you got this last year, can we show growth this year? And so maybe, you know, if they don't show growth, or they're continually at year 2, 3, and we got 3 years of data in a row that show it, now maybe you could say, hey, let's be realistic about whether or not we're going to get there. Or was it just a bad test because the first time you ever had a time test kind of deal too? So there's some of those conversations that still have to be had.
I think the metric, it'll help our kids, because 9th and 10th up prior to this, you know, unless you were intentional about it, doing the state assessment, which, you know, I'd past experience of taking the 9th grade and 10th grade and making our kids do that. You know, last year was our first journey down that path, but kids, I think, I'm hoping, and hopefully we'll see that too here, that they become more invested, that it means something. I have a 9th grade, I have a 10th grade, I have 11th grade, that it's all a consistent assessment, and it all means the same thing. Different scores, yes, different assessments, but it's leading you to what he just, you know, projected. So maybe they'll have a more vested interest in applying themselves in those assessments. And I think that happened last year. I think we had good representation of our 9th graders and 10th graders really doing due diligence with the assessment, not just whatever. You know, you can draw sailboats on those circles if you didn't know that. I've done that.
As an indicator, like
I've seen kids do that.
Our current sophomores as freshmen, and just last week in the mail, got a deal where they break them into different tiers, right? So distinguished scholar is the top 5%. A rising scholar, you're in the top 15%. And you know, I think it's called outstanding scholar or something, you're in the top 45%. And so they sent us certificates for each kid that fell into it. And out of our 24, I believe 20 would have been in the top 45% of the kids nationally that took the pre-ACT. So that goes to show you, like, you know, good things are happening, we're doing well. And I think we had 3 that made it in the top 15 out of 24. So pretty neat. I didn't even know they did that, but if you want, I can kind of give you that data next meeting as a way of kind of seeing. We did really well compared to the national average on that pre-ACT. I was pretty happy with the results. I've not gotten that same thing for our sophomores that are now juniors. They didn't send me a thing for them, so I don't know how they did. But I do know how our freshmen did nationally, which is kind of cool.
Questions? Yeah, I say clear as mud, but something I've done every year. I just moved it from October to November. So that's all I have for you, Matt, on my report. So
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to discussion items. Item A, review policy manual. The following ASBSD policies are being presented for review and first reading for district consideration. GCQAB, GBA, GDB, GDBB, GDBC, and GDC.
Real quick, those are a policy on tutoring for pay. It holds our teachers accountable, providing instructional assistance, and it says in our policy is without charge. Support staff positions, it kind of just talks about what they are, things of that nature, and that we support them, that we use them. Non-certified staff contracts, compensation, some of that, we abide by what is on there. 9-month, 12-month for those employees that are what we call classified people. GDBB is support staff, supplementary pay plans. We're in alignment with what that policy says. And then support staff fringe benefits, same thing there. I think it's one thing worth noting, support staffs who are regularly employed for 22 hours a week are entitled to membership in our insurance plan. So we expect our, it's not just 50%, 40-hour work week, don't have to work 20. It's 22 hours per week in order to be participate in the insurance program. So, and then staff recruiting positions, vacancies, and hiring, that's all relative to practices that we have in place. So those are your first readings of those policies in the manual, section G. So we're getting close to the end of that section. That's a long section, sorry.
Questions, comments? Everything's pretty straightforward, I think, so. If not, we will move on. Second reading of policies for consideration. GCPA, GCPB, GCPC, GCPD, GCPDA. And I don't remember any corrections we made from that.
We had none from last month. Any changes there were no changes made.
If there's no other comments, we will move on to the final review and adoption and inclusion to the district's policy manual. The following policies: GCF, GCI, GCJ, GCK, GCL, and GCN.
There was no discussion, or the past two readings on those, we didn't make any changes to those either, so they're as written.
Okay,
They'll go in the manual. So
I'll accept a motion to approve the policies for third reading and adoption and inclusion into the district's manual.
So moved.
Moved by Roth,
I'll second it.
seconded by Prohl. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We'll move on to item E, school calendar changes.
D. Yes?
Oops, sorry, D.
Yeah,
Skipped one.
yeah, that's right.
Student transportation,
We've been talking about this for 6 months too. I know you're tired of it, I'm tired of it, but I want you guys to tell me what you want me to do. Because you want me to shut up and leave it alone and leave them alone and just let them deal with it? I have no problem doing that. I mean, we're making it work right now. Ben is doing everything he can to make sure there's somebody in there, and everybody's playing a little here, a little there. He added one guy to the mix, but still not a permanent replacement. So I've showed you the dollars, perhaps where, what it cost. I know these aren't exact numbers. Even if you had the opportunity to pay mileage, for people who live 2 miles from the attendance center, what that would cost versus what you're paying for.
Now you're just using that as a reference, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
in my mind, that's not an option.
The paying mileage.
yeah.
Yeah, that's totally up to you guys. It was to give you feedback. If that was something you wanted to consider, that's what it would cost.
In my opinion,
So,
I don't even think we can consider that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Because if we don't do any busing, that was the alternatives, we have to pay mileage,
Right.
right?
Yes,
But-
yes,
right.
exactly.
But I agree with that.
100%. Yep. Yeah, if you don't do nothing, you gotta do something. And paying mileage is one of those alternatives. So it's probably the only alternative. So if you don't want to pay mileage, then the rest of it is just because of the lack of people in the seats. Let it be their problem. I'm okay with that, but, you know, the expense factor to doing that, rather than doing your own fleet, I mean, there's, if we ever got to the point, in my opinion, I'm guiding you as your superintendent now, this is one of the things we'd have to look at. If the budget got tighter than tight, we'd have to take a serious look at that and what you're spending on student transportation. Initial investments up front, yes, but the expenses going down the road, what you perhaps could save by doing that, wouldn't take you long to perhaps get your money back on the initial investment. So, and a lot of the things embedded within, like ownership of a fleet, oil changes, fluids, maintenance, tires, things of that stuff, all the things in the numbers that I put there, those are inflated costs, in my opinion, based on the research that I did. And it doesn't necessarily cost that much to do those elements of owning a fleet. So,
And the only thing, and I've said this before, the only thing I think you're missing there is I think you gotta have somebody coordinating the day-to-day out, you know, even if it's for an hour or two or
right.
3. I think
And that is
that's-
not in there.
I think that's something that would need to be added. It wouldn't be a lot, but I just think, because if, you know, somebody oversleeps in the morning, somebody's gotta be there to at least know that, I guess, you know, so.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I agree with that too.
Maybe. My thoughts, yeah, I mean, it's a good idea owning our own buses, but it still comes back to the not having anybody to drive them. So yeah, and we talked the last time about, you know, maybe increasing the fee a little bit, but if we're gonna increase the fee, then we're not really saving a whole lot of money, and we still have the same problem of not having anybody to drive it. So,
Even if they increase their fee, that's still coming down onto you. I mean, they're not gonna eat that.
right,
I mean, they're just gonna continue to pass that down to us.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to the headache of not having anybody to drive.
Right. Well, and I think part of the conversation, what is it gonna take to entice somebody? We talked about providing health insurance last time. Well, I mean, Craig and I visited a little bit, and this is nothing against Jason. Jason and I visited too. We're like, I'm not sure that's where you wanna go either. Be careful when you start adding health insurance to, you know, bus driving. I mean, you wanna talk about diminish of return? That'll get rid of it real fast, you know, when you're paying health insurance for bus drivers, so.
But if we end up, you know, back to the same point, well, your number's off by 60 grand, we're back to 360, but if we got people in the seats, well, mission accomplished, at least we got a consistent, you know, people there.
Yeah.
So if it just costs us 60 grand to do it, well, so be,
Right.
we're not really out anything.
Yeah.
Because right now it's our problem anyhow, trying to find drivers.
Yeah, and that's my whole angst, but if you want me to shut up and be quiet and quit crying about it, I'll do that. And I won't mess with these guys anymore. They won't answer my phone calls anymore. They won't respond to my emails anymore. For whatever reason, I don't know. But I suppose they're tired of me. You know, so their problem. And the first day they don't show up with 5 buses out here in the morning or at night, then if I can get a hold of them, we'll have a serious conversation, because then they're in breach, because it says right in the contract. So we can go that route, as far as I'm concerned. So we'll let it be and, you know, put the onus on them.
The only problem that I have with that is if that situation happens in March or February, how long of a turnaround do we need to put something like this together? I mean, just getting excluding a building,
Right.
could you put this together over the summer?
Oh, easy.
Okay.
Yep. But we negotiate that contract.
Mhm.
I reach out when I know after the March, last day of the legislative session, I know what we got, we start doing the numbers. And then no later than May, it's on the agenda to approve the contract for student transportation. But even if it did just make that decision at that point in time, could we pull this off? Yeah, I'm almost positive. Now, I can get all of the capital put in place, the human, which is our whole angst anyway, That I'm not gonna sit here and guarantee you, because that's our problem,
Right.
so.
Mhm.
So. But that's, you guys are getting sick of it, I'm tired of it. Just say, be done with it and let it be theirs.
Thoughts?
That's my opinion right now, is to let it be their problem right now. And hopefully, I know Ben's trying as hard as he can to get people, but,
I feel bad for him, I really do.
right, yeah, he's striking out every
Yeah.
which direction. And
And
he's
they're
trying
not giving
hard.
him, they're not giving him any help either.
Sure.
And he's burning the candle on both ends with these guys that are in the seats right now. They're getting tired.
Sure.
Well, he did have one guy quit on him too. You know, Jim Teedy said he's not driving anymore.
See.
So he added one, but he lost another
Right.
sub, so he's still net
Yeah,
neutral.
we're neutral. So,
I agree with all being said here so far. I don't want to throw this away.
yeah,
You know, so I still want to, because to me, there's merit here. And I agree that finding people is our biggest obstacle now. And so until we get there, I was just thinking, is there any possibility on extracurricular activities? Is there a savings there?
which way?
Um,
Them or us doing our own?
We doing some of them.
We would have to renegotiate that with them. Would they object to that? I don't know, it's a good question, because they're making money on that deal. So the difference, I'll just give you a real quick scenario. The question was whether we should take the yellow bus for the football team to Elkton. Not that far, 134 miles, big deal, ride a bus. That's gonna kill you. I'm used to that. Well, so the difference, I priced it out based on the contract and what we're paying for a yellow bus, which I asked to get a quote for what it would take for the coach. It was $96 difference. And the coach cost us $11.50. It would have cost us $1,064 to drive. That's what they would have billed us to take the yellow bus up there. So their activities wise they're doing well.
And everything except, probably football for sure. But your basketballs, volleyballs, things like that, you could get by with 2 or 3 vans. And probably it would be better on the students.
Yeah.
If we have 3 teams
Sure.
for basketball, they don't all have to leave at the same time,
Yeah. Yep, and that's a huge component, because
Yeah.
right now, we are taking 2 buses.
Yeah.
For every contest. We have a group that leaves early, that's got boys and girls on it, because we're playing those C teams, JV teams and stuff, and then those varsity kids will finish out school and go get there later. That's standard practice. We're not the only ones doing that. It's pretty consistent. So, but I'd have to have a conversation on what are they willing to compromise on. You guys run the routes, we'll do our own activities. We'll take care of it. Whether it's by buying another couple more vans or whatever it is to get our kids from point A to point B. I mean, that investment, you probably saw on the bills in there, we just bought a 15-passenger van for $12,995. And it only had less than 50,000 miles on it and has great meats on it for its tires, and it's in good shape. Can I find more of those? Yeah, easy. So, and then your staff are driving them, which we would probably have to start throwing them some cash to do that, so. But the cost savings on that would be extraordinary. But I keep trying. I keep emailing and whatever. I'll find them at some point in time and we'll cross paths to have this conversation.
If they do breach contract, what do we do? Just
Oh, that's a good question.
say, well, do better tomorrow and we'll
You're
finish
right.
the year out? Or are we gonna say, well, that's the turning point and?
Yeah, that's a good question. What do you do with it at that point? And he assured me it wouldn't happen, but he never gave me a plan and how to ensure that it wouldn't happen. He couldn't answer that question. So,
If it does come down to a fiscal reason that we need to do it, we would be better off doing it sooner rather than later.
Sure.
I mean, if you're in a fiscal position that you need to do something, this is gonna take a little bit longer to pay off, so if it was done, ahead of time, that
right.
would help, that, but. So what I'm hearing right now is sit and cross our fingers and
Finish the school year out.
see what they come with for negotiation and.
That's what I think.
I don't know if it's, like I said, they won't even talk to you anymore, but if they considered changing how they're doing the busing even now and get some smaller buses. 'Cause I drove the trip to Elmont route a few times and so when I left town, there's only 9 to 10 kids on the bus.
Right.
So driving a 50-passenger bus for 50 miles to drop off 9 kids, it's like, and only one got off a trip. So that was a peculiar day for that one day, but it's like,
Right.
well, we could change it up and get some smaller buses, and maybe we don't need so many CDL drivers. And for them even, they could.
Don't need them for 14 non-passenger, 14 passenger CDL.
But if they want to talk to you, then they gotta figure it out.
I don't know what that's about. I mean, I've emailed them and called them, and I've got nothing back. I mean, I know they're busy, but they got 13 footprints. I mean, but seriously, can't respond.
Okay,
Okay,
kick the can.
appreciate it.
All right, now we will move on to item E, school calendar changes.
Before we get real too far in the weeds on that deal, force you to make a decision, which we're not really trying to do. We put out a Google Doc and we talked to all our staff. 88% of the staff said that they will be here, one way or the other. I mean, if the girls qualify tomorrow night, they will be in school. I sat down with Mr. Fisher, and I'm pretty sure we have our elementary bases covered. Take a little shuffling. We'll get through it. The thing to note there is I would have to stay, which is fine because we need, the state requires supervision out there. So you have to have admin at that event. And obviously Mr. K would go because he's got a daughter that's on the team, and then Mr. Fisher in the AD role, he's got to go out there and babysit kids, make the kids that go out there, be sure they're behaving. So we have bases covered if we end up, if we think it's in our best interest to have school on next Thursday. Obviously, we already have Friday off, for that. I think the biggest factor in the difference between the two experiences last spring, Huron up and back, easy peasy, right? Many more people jumping in a car and going and coming back home. This is out in Rapid City. Many people are not, therefore, are we forcing those patrons to take a day off from their work or kids not going to school when in fact 88% of our staff said they would be here, and we can cover the bases of the 12% that are not or plan to travel. I think we can do that. So I wanted to give you that update and just make the decision. I think I would recommend to you, and people can crucify me and hang me if they want, but to give you the recommendation that we stay in school for next Thursday if the girls are successful in qualifying for that state tournament. And it's not disrespectful to the team. That has anything to do with it. I mean,
If I remember correctly, last time they qualified, we did that same thing. We took off Friday and not Thursday, and that was before we had the
philosophy that we have,
Yes.
the school calendar that we
Yes.
have. Yes, you're exactly right. Because it was in Rapid then too.
I don't remember that.
It was in Rapid. So comments, questions?
I'm fine with it.
I think
Yeah.
stay in school.
Jill, go ahead.
Jill?
Yeah, I feel like stay in school. I think, like if you think about any program who makes it consistently every year, you can't every year be like, we're going to take Thursday and Friday off for every state tournament every time. And I want kids to go, and I want parents to go, and I want whoever wants to be there, I want them to go and cheer them on. But I also think, just in the spirit of making sure everybody has to use their days when they do take off, and it isn't just to get out of, just get it free. I feel like it makes sense to have school on Thursday, unless, of course, we wouldn't have enough staff for some reason, or there are barely any kids there, but I don't.
We have 9 people gone, and we found enough people, well, actually 11. 2 at Mr. K's end. I'm not counting him. That's not the deal. I'm talking about people who are in the classrooms, whether it's paraprofessionals and certified teachers. So we had a total of 11 people being absent, a combination of those 2 classified and certified people, but we found enough people to hold it together. And we are shuffling some chairs in-house to be able to do that, but we'll be fine. I think, talking to the 2 principals that, we can do some enrichment stuff there. We're not introducing new content, because we will have quick kids going, especially our older kids. So I think it's in our best interest to, we'll get through it. So.
Okay, everybody's good with that?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Move on to action items, reviewing the financial report. Any comments on that, Jason? Anything to note?
No.
Everything looked fairly well in line to me.
If you look at the balance sheet, your goldenrod, that's the main thing, and you can do your 4-year averages there in all your categories. It's in line.
Mm-hmm.
And we really haven't, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't seen the influx yet of our taxes.
No.
Yeah, so, there's a little there, but there should be a number there, hopefully in December, that's gonna be like, ooh, smokes. Pretty good chunk of change.
Is that normal to come in December?
Yeah. It usually starts arriving in November, but it's never in time for a school board meeting, because that's second Monday, so it's gonna start pouring in here, so. The school lunch, tried to spend some money there, and we ended up having to get for the walk-in cooler, a new evaporator. So we spent a whopping $3,200 on that, so. And we are still doing the, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, is it Fridays or Wednesdays?
What's that?
The free breakfast.
Every day.
Every
Oh, was it every day?
breakfast,
Yeah, my fault. I was thinking of the sandwiches.
Sandwiches, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So, if there's no questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve the financial report. Second. Moved by Turner, second by Roth. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed, same sign.
Out of curiosity, is there a pickup in participation on the breakfast?
Number-wise, without running a report, in my passing down there, definitely on the days where we're doing the sandwiches. Yep. That's pretty well attended.
Okay.
And the number of kids at Mr. K's end that I see walking back down the hallway on those days with a brown bag, because it has the sandwich in it, yeah. I can't give you a specific number,
No, nice.
but yeah, I think we're getting more participation on those days, so. The cereal day, not so much. Breakfast bar, probably not so much. But definitely the sausage, smoky corn dog thing, that goes well, and then the sandwich days goes pretty well. So, okay.
All right, that's all I have, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Kroll, seconded by Turner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill.
Yep, thank you guys. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.